Hey there, Cancer. Riverica here, reporting for duty on a trigger. Thank you so much for shuffling states of emergency into adoption spirit magic with me and steering clear of danger. Heartily, we are grateful. In this session, we are exploring what may help us move forward in the highest love and light this April 2023. But before that, some disclaimers. I am not a doctor, lawyer, therapist. I'm a fortune teller, so what I offer is no substitute for their services. Furthermore, what I share does not determine your future. Only your intentions and actions do. So please use your gifts of discernment before deciding what to gather and take away. And of course, take only what resonates and blow like a kiss the rest to the universe for cosmic composting back into beauty. This reading is intended for fun and games, for shits and giggles, for entertainment, for flexing our heart, mind, body, soul, spirit, emotions, intuition, and at the least, I hope to cause harm to none, and at the most, I hope I may assist you on your healing path. All that said, let me introduce our helpers. I have lit candles for Source, Mother Earth, Father Sky, the homeless, those that kick them out of their homes, the neighbors, the passers-by, even those working against our spiritual progression. Also for harmony, unity, and balance, Archangel Cassiel, our ancestors here in the highest love and light, and those who have crossed over to Father Sky by suicide, and the family and friends they left behind on Mother Earth, as well as the war-torn families, nations, countries, worlds, galaxies, universes, and we thank Source for helping us all adopt success, transmuting these violent cycles into love. Heartily, we are grateful. I also have my mini crystal ball, my wooden wand, my wooden dagger wand to help lift our spirits and cut to the heart of the matter without harming a soul. And we have the tuning fork to help clear the space. And this is 528C. And I invite you to check out more about that on your own because, you know, we're all different psychosocial science experiments, and what resonates for you may be different than me. And so I invite you to check out 4 or 5 or 6 or 27 different resources to see what resonates with you with any of these resources that I share in my sessions. And off the top of my head, I'd say the 528 goes with your heart chakra, and the note C as well, but also the note C goes with our root chakra. And then I rolled the number 6 with my wooden dice and the living altar, and oracle and spell deck for the Radical Witch by Kiki Robinson and Ilva Droma Marzana Radziszewski was selected for us. So that is super exciting. It's one of the only Romani decks I know in circulation, so I am thrilled to share it with you. And you may find them at thelivingaltar.com, and you might also find them on the socials. I'll leave some information in the description to help you find them. And you may also enjoy listening to their podcast, Altars Up Witches. You may also enjoy taking in the Romanistan podcast by Paulina Verminski and Jessica Reedy, the Halloween episodes, where they invited Ilva and Kiki over to share some spooky stories, and Ilva and Kiki shared some spooky stories about the making of this deck. So that was fun, and you might think it's fun too. So I invite you to check that out. And you may also enjoy this month a new podcast coming out hosted by the LA Times. And one of their first stories is featuring Paulina Verminski of the Romanistan podcast. And that new podcast hosted by the LA Times is called Foretold. And again, I'll leave some of that information to help you find it in the description. But I wanted to talk about the number 6 before I jumped into the reading. The 6 that we rolled to get this deck is the 6 is a number of service. And it indicates the presence of light and dark, and the choices made between these two. And this number 6 also defends against forces such as psychic invasions, and enables us to maintain our integrity by maintaining healthy energetic boundaries. And that's super special, especially for orphans and adoptees who have been subject to those psychic invasions, people talking crap about them behind their back. Some of them are just running their mouths nervously, taking out their grief without even knowing it. Others are actually intentionally cursing. The first one I mentioned was an unintentional curse. The second one is obviously intentional. And so this number six, that's funny, pardon me, helps defend against any of those psychic invasions. And it also helps us release the unconscious benefits of a repetitive pattern and embrace more joyful ways of responding to life. And so that's super, especially with everything that we've been going through the past couple of years. Some of us coming out of the fog as adoptees, some of us dismantling, and the past couple of years, decades, lifetimes. And so I invite you to incorporate that into your practice to help play through the losses. Like, they're so challenging. How do you have fun playing through that? Well, doing things like this, maybe. And we also have, moving right along, labradorite, the crystal to help us with this reading. And off the top of my head, I'd say that one word that might sum this up is transformation. But again, I invite you to look up 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 27 different sources to see what might resonate for you about labradorite. It's a beautiful stone. I love it. So let us clear the space. I invite you to hold the intention of seeing only love, and only love we shall see. And be aware, I'm going to ring this bell and say a mantra, so protect your ears. Thank you. Here we go. Mind, body, speech, in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Om. Peace. Shanti. Thank you so much. So let's jump in. Thank you so much for being here, enjoying this reading. You are a whole, full, powerful, loving, spiritual being, and so am I. And we thank your source and my source. And we thank your spirit, team, angels, galaxy guides, ancestors, saints, sages, gods, goddesses, universe is here for the highest love and light as well as mine. And we thank your source and my source for shifting the situation into what it needs to be, offering necessary insights, healings, acts of grace, protection. Heartily, we are grateful. And so it was, and so it was, and so it was. Thank you for making this reading abundantly clear what Cancer needs to hear. Oh my goodness. And we have summer. And I'm saying, oh my goodness, because this came up, I think, for the Gemini reading. Some of you might have Gemini placements, and so this might be especially relevant for you. I mean, how special. So this summer card, it looks like there's some paper, the spell possibly, that's been written and then burnt, and some red thread, some leaves. I feel like these are deer prints, but maybe they're something totally different. What I love about these cards is how each of us sees something different, and so that's super special. And I invite you to share your sensations and what's jumping out at you. Let us know if you enjoy sharing. So this summer these cards are divided into 3 parts. The reading, that is. So I invite you to settle in. And there is a part about the witch's wheel correspondence, and then the spell, and then guided guiding messages. And so I invite you to check out different variations of the witch's wheel and perhaps come up with your own that might help integrate this reading for you. And maybe you come back and repeat the spell a couple times, re-say the spell a couple times, like 4 or 5, 6 times, not a couple. Maybe it's a couple for you. The reason I enjoy more is more than 3, like that 3 strikes you're out, doesn't seem so fair if we all want to adopt success. Like, let us have as many chances as we need to make this work. And so anyways, all that to say, I invite you to come back and say the spell 4 or 5 or 6 more times to help integrate it. And the guiding messages, you may choose to journal. I think there's 6 or 7 questions there. So let's jump in with the Witch's Wheel correspondence. There's 13 things that are in this section, and they are fire, south, adolescence, young adult, catalyst, celebration, midday, gibbous moon, full moon, transformation, cleansing, ritual, and creation. And that's super fun. We have a full moon coming up on the 5th and 6th of April, depending on where you are. And I invite you to check out more about what that may bring for you and how you may work with that. And catalyst is also jumping out at me. You know, as an orphan and adoptee, we are catalysts. Like, we really got people to move, didn't we? And so that seems very interesting to me. And it's been coming up in my fields the past couple days. So I invite you to explore that more as well, that catalyst. So here goes the spell. I will leave no rock unturned in my bold defiance of limitation. As fire burns, I celebrate the catalyst of my purpose. My scrutiny of status quo is a holy act of rebellion. Knowing where the matches are, I choose to seek out love as passionately as the sunrise seeks the night. That's such a beautiful spell. Thank you so much, Summer and the Living Altar and Kiki and Ilva. What's jumping out at me there is that catalyst again. I celebrate the catalyst of my purpose. And those of you who are orphans and adoptees finding, well, what was the purpose? What's the underlying purpose of this? So many of us have been coming out of the fog and dismantling adoption fairy tales and in positions where we have cut ties from our families. And what's the purpose of that? Like, I thought this was forever and this was supposed to be quote unquote for the best, but really it's not. So what's the purpose? And so many of us are finding our purpose within that, figuring out a way to find the silver lining in that, to turn it into a positive. And so I'm giving you big hugs, sending you big hugs for all of that you've been through and helping fortify you for your next forays, and thanking you so much for being so strong and courageous and doing what you're doing. Heartily, we are grateful. Thank you so much. And then the other piece that's jumping out in that spell is that scrutiny of status quo, going back to dismantling, doing the dismantling of the adoption fairy tales, right? There's a status quo like adoption's for the best. And those who have been adopted and are coming out of the fog have a different point of view. And they're starting to share that. As we've seen in the public sphere recently, some celebrity has come out with their version and bringing more awareness to what orphans and adoptees go through and what might be more beneficial, what might be a more beneficial way of proceeding with adoption. Because right now, as adoption stands and as it has stood historically, it seems to adopt success only for the select few who manage to look and act a certain way instead of adopting success for one and all. And so we're working towards that and rebuilding a new earth. And thank you so much for scrutinizing the status quo and rebelling in your peaceful ways, right? I know myself, sometimes I have acted violently trying to rebel, and that didn't feel so wonderful. It didn't accomplish what I intended, and it hurt other people. And so I really commend you all for doing what you're doing in a way that's peaceful and gentle for yourself and for others as you can. Thank you so much for helping rebuild a new earth full of peace and joy. That is tremendous. So the guiding messages, there's around 6 questions, and here they go. What is churning within you? What is asking for attention to be acted upon? Spend time reflecting on your relationship with summer. Where are you now in relationship to last summer? How have you healed? What transformations? How have you healed? And what transformations have you undergone? Where would you like to see yourself come next summer? What is asking for healing? Such beautiful questions to reflect upon, especially with summer coming up. And with everything we've been through, especially these past 3 years, really wonderful reflections to help us really nestle in to where we've been, who we are now, and where we want to go with intention and love in our hearts. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Summer, and the Living Altar, and Kiki, and Ilva, and Source, and Cancer. And that is all I am seeing for you in this April 2023 reading. Thank you so much for helping breathe life into adoption spirit magic with me. Heartily, we are grateful. Until next time, ciao for now. I love you all.